I was extremely surprised, flabbergasted even. What's going on, y'all? Max here. Today we're going to be going over the top 3 reasons why you aren't losing weight and why the scale's not going down while you're on a diet. But before we get into that, please like the video and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. So with that, let's get into it. So there's a lot of reasons why the scale might not be moving down while you're on a diet, but the first one, and probably one of the biggest ones that I tell people at the start, is that sometimes the scale is an absolute liar. So a lot of times what happens is whenever you're losing weight, especially if you're listening to me and you've been going to the gym, you've been lifting weights, not just doing cardio while you're doing your weight loss journey, there's a really good chance you're going to be building muscle and losing fat. And when you're doing that, you're going to actually be, sometimes in some cases, you're going to be actually gaining weight while you're on a diet. And that could really mess with your head because you're so used to looking at the scale and being like, oh my God, the scale's not going down. What's wrong? Am I doing something wrong? Sometimes you're spiraled out of control. You're going to go crazy. So you have to sometimes be able to understand why the scale isn't going down. So how do you know that if you're building muscle and losing fat and not just gaining body fat? A really good indicator is if, of course, if you're in a calorie deficit, but also if you're getting stronger. This is why I'm a big advocate for power building compared to bodybuilder style training or other stuff like that, because it helps you really focus on the fact of whether or not you're building muscle. Because if you're getting stronger, then especially as you're a new lifter, then you're going to be building muscle that way. And a good thing to keep in mind whenever you're thinking about this is the fact that muscle is actually 15% more dense than fat is. I'll put a picture up about a comparison that you guys might have seen before right up here, and it basically just shows just how big of a difference that it makes, at least in size wise, and why you can lose 15 pounds of fat and gain 15 pounds of muscle and look drastically different. Alrighty, and number 2 on the list is going to be you're not accounting for certain things. So if you're tracking your macros like you should be whenever you're losing weight, then there's a chance that you're not tracking everything. Like if you're just tracking the main food that you're eating and you're not tracking stuff like drinks and sauces, then there's a good chance that can really throw off your macros. So a lot of people think, oh, it's just a little bit of, mayonnaise, it's just a little bit of ketchup. How big of a difference can it make? And actually it can be pretty massive. I remember the first time that I weighed out some ketchup versus mayo, and I just about died and passed out from like how little you can actually eat for the calories that is in those things. So even though on the package it only say, like for ketchup, I think it's about 20 calories per serving, but 1 tablespoon of ketchup, at least for me, I drown my in ketchup normally. So whenever it comes to actually weighing that amount, the calories add up real quick. This is why I normally use the either 0 calorie ketchup or I'll use the sugar-free 10 calorie version, and that normally helps a little bit. But with mayo, it's real bad. This is why I almost always now get light mayo instead of regular, because if I try to load up something with mayo now, it just adds, can add upwards of 200-300 calories just from the mayonnaise. So I'll put a picture of the mayonnaise up here and ketchup up here. You can see what 100 calories of mayo looks like and 20 calories of ketchup looks like, which can really put in perspective how little a serving can have such high amount of calories. And then kind of also what I was saying earlier with drinks are absolutely massive. I remember actually a good friend of mine, he's my roommate now. You might hear some demonic laughter in the background sometimes, and if you do, that's probably him. And I remember we were at Chipotle one time and he was telling me I was starting a diet, and he was like, didn't you start a diet? And I got this just massive thing of just regular lemonade, and he was like, doesn't that have a lot of calories in it? And it like never clicked in my head before. I'm like, am I f***ing retarded? And then I look up the calories, and I'll put the calories and macros and stuff up here about what like 1 large thing of lemonade is from some restaurant, and you'll kind of realize like, oh wow, you can eat like 8 ounces of chicken for the same calories of just drinking 1 thing of regular lemonade from a fast food place. So this is why I always recommend using 0 calorie drinks, or at least low calorie light versions. Like Crystal Light is amazing if you're a big fan of lemonade like me. And then same thing, like I said with the sauces, 0 calorie or low calorie sauces helps a lot whenever you're going through a diet. One last quick thing to add on for this one is going to be coffee creamer. So I was extremely surprised, flabbergasted even, whenever I first weighed the amount of creamer is in 1 serving of creamer. And I remember it was around Christmas time, because whenever it gets to like November, December, I turn into a basic and I start loving to drink like peppermint mochas, or at least that type of creamer in my coffee. And I poured it. I was like, because I used to never weigh, obviously before I dieted, I never weighed anything. And since I was pretty deep into the diet at this point, not super far, but I was about halfway through my fitness journey, I decided to weigh it, and I just about I couldn't believe it. How like just you get like just a little pour, and you either hit the amount or you go over. And then for the amount of creamer that I was putting in my coffee, it was adding at least 100 calories into my coffee every day, which again, 100 calories may not seem like a lot, but whenever you think about all the things that you can eat for 100 calories, this is why I always advocate for eating your calories, not drinking your calories. Because whenever you drink your calories, if I'm drinking 4 cups of coffee a day and I have 50 to 100 calories worth of creamer in each one of those cups of coffee, it's going to add up to 200 to 400 calories just from coffee creamer. So just keep that in mind, weigh stuff like creamer, and you'll start to kind of realize how little you can have of certain things, and try to make swaps when you can, or if you really need it, completely understandable, but just understand how it affects your calories throughout the day. All right, and the last one we're going to talk about is underestimating restaurant foods. So I don't think I've talked about this in my videos before, but I actually went to culinary school and I've worked in a professional kitchen before. And one of the biggest things that I honestly learned is the amount of calories and fat that they put onto food in professional kitchens to make things taste good is absolutely crazy. So, for example, you may be feeling healthy, you're feeling yourself, you get a side of broccoli, you get a side of green beans, something like that, right? And they taste great. And the reason why is because they just cover that shit in butter. So what they'll do is they'll normally melt a big thing of butter beforehand, early in the day, and then whenever they need to season some vegetables or a new batch of vegetables, what they do is they just take a ladle full sometimes, and they'll just ladle that shit over the vegetables, or they deep fry them and stuff like that. And you can end up having a side of vegetables that's a good 500-600 calories due to the amount of fat that is actually in those vegetables. This goes for a lot of stuff too. Say with steak, they'll cover it in compound butter. Oh, it tastes so good, but you got to keep in mind how much calories it's adding. So that's a good chance that if you're not factoring that in, if you're somebody who likes to go out on the weekend or something like that, and you need to budget your calories accordingly throughout the week so that you actually have the calories to keep losing weight, even on those days where you go kind of crazy going out. It's just something to keep in mind. And kind of something that kind of tags along with this also is the amount of salt that they use is way more than what most people do. Sodium really makes you retain a lot of water. It's why, honestly, if you guys ever eat Chinese food or something like that, the reason why you end up feeling sometimes a little bloated afterwards is actually because, or your skin looks a little puffy, and it's actually the reason why is because the amount of sodium that's in that. It's not the MSG, but the amount of salt that they use from soy sauce actually makes it so your body just holds a ton of water, and you just puff up like a puffer fish. But also, one good thing about knowing this information is that means that not always do you gain 10 pounds overnight. It's impossible. You're not going to gain 10 pounds of fat overnight. A lot of times when you go out to eat, because of the amount of salt that they put into food, you end up gaining a lot of weight directly the day after. But that's because your body's actually holding on to way more water than you actually gaining that much weight. Just to do a quick recap, the number one thing is going to be the scale. Sometimes it's a fucking liar. And you just got to keep that in mind, that there's a lot of factors like salt, what you eat the day before, how late you eat, the amount of water you drink. All those factors play into whenever you're actually weighing in the next day. So you just got to keep that in mind. And just because the scale isn't going down doesn't mean that you're not losing weight. Number two is going to be making sure you're tracking everything accordingly. You don't have to do this all the time, but it's a good thing to do to start out, just so that you actually can have a good frame of reference of what the amount of calories are in certain things. And then number three is going to be underestimating the amount of calories in restaurant foods, because restaurants, fat equals flavor, and so they will just coat everything that they have in the most amount of fat possible, because restaurants aren't there to make you guys lose weight. It's for you guys to have a pleasurable eating experience, and a lot of times that comes with covering stuff in shit that is not good for you. All right, y'all, thanks for watching. Hope this information helps you guys out with your fitness journey. If anything did help out, you guys have any other tips, post in the comments below. I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to start a discussion. And so I'll see you guys next Monday for the next video. I'll talk to you next one. Peace.